nice and bright green today. What's up? Welcome to Nicsmas, day 2. Day 2. Let me know that you can hear me. Don't worry, I just checked to make sure I didn't have too much bedhead going on. Question came in, so I'll answer this question live because it just so happened to drop on Telegram. The Colby test was interesting. Any possibility of touching on this? And the Colby test is interesting. That is true, but it's really important that we understand that more data, and I'll probably have a day on this, but I've talked about this at length. We have to be very, very careful. More data is not better. People that have more data make worse decisions. Right? It's frequency of exposure. I've written articles about it. I've made videos about it. I feel very strongly about it. So I'm not going to cover things that require a lot of data, like Colby test. It's very, very useful in a very specific context if you know how to use it. Otherwise, it can cause a lot of distortions. I know a lot of people that have taken a test of sorts have been like, oh, I'm introverted. That explains a lot, but then it becomes an excuse as to why they don't do things they need to do or why they become total a-holes. Remember, Nicsmas 2021, directions for acting like an adult or don't act like an asshole. So a lot of times people, if they're not prepared, will use data to act more like an asshole and excuse it or justify it, right? So I do think the Colby test is great if you know exactly how to use it in the context in which you are trying to move your life forward. Remember, it's all about closing the gap. It's all about getting what you want. It is not about knowing more stuff. Knowing more stuff in a way that you cannot practically apply to close the gap is pointless. It is cognitive horsepower going to something other than getting what you want. Not a popular opinion, I understand. I am clearly not here to be popular. Trying to be helpful. So there's a few things I will touch on as we let people drop on. The first is that validity and usefulness. Okay, this is something that Randy Massengale teaches in the CCA program that we run together. Validity and usefulness. You will seek validity, and I'll talk about that today. You will seek to make valid points. That's how people sound smart. Our school system, everything, our society has said you get rewarded for making valid points, right? When you, for example, even to the level of some dissertations, you are make the most valid argument. It is not necessarily make the most useful argument. Those are very different things. I am here for utility. I hope to be as useful to everybody, and I hope that you learn or think about being useful to yourself and others, not valid. So a lot of times people get really upset because they make a very valid point, and they feel almost as if I disregard it, and it's not that it's disregarded, it's that, yes, I recognize that you have made a valid point. There is an article, Harvard Business Review, called Teaching Smart People How to Learn, and it's very good. I will send it for reference for you guys. It's very good. The biggest hang-up to smart people learning, this is why you have experts that can't seem to get out of their own way, is they have been taught their whole entire life and rewarded, and they hold on to the identity of being valid, not useful. Look how right I am. I'm right about all these things. Here's all the things that I can prove, and none of it gets you closer to what you want. So what's the point? Validity versus usefulness. It's something I strongly recommend. People drop in all the time to our Discords, to our Telegrams, Facebook, and they say, here's a valid point. And then they mansplain for, 4 paragraphs. Like, cool, that was all valid. Not useful to anybody at all. So that's the... it is my hope to give you things that are useful, not so much valid. I'm not here to prove anything. I hope that you learn to not have to prove anything. I'll show you that there's this intellectual security bit, right? And I joke about it, but it's very real. Check these out. Those are sweet. Most people, the internet is for cats and boobs and memes and stuff. People, it says poor people pretending to be rich, but this is people that don't have intellectual security or emotional security. The internet is for convincing people you are rich. This could be the internet is for convincing people of whatever you need to convince them of. Why do you need to convince anybody of anything? That's what you're doing when you're making valid points. Like, yes, valid statement. You are trying to prove that you are smart. However, people that have intellectual security, financial security, or emotional security, the internet's for cats and boobs and memes and stuff again, because there's nothing to prove to anybody. So, just keep that in mind when you're going through our stuff. My stuff in particular. Really not here. I promise. I'm not here to make you think I'm smart or make you think I make money or make you think anything. Here because I can be, and I hope that it's useful to you. That's why I do this for 12 days out of the year. Just buckle down and say, I'm going to try and be as useful as possible based on my experience, and I will use the anecdotal evidence, and I will try and tie it in with examples that maybe is useful to other people, right? So that we can learn how to act like an adult or don't act like an asshole, again, whichever one fits your sensibilities. Starts soon, starts now. Okay, 6-word update. 6-word update first. So let's everybody, if you can, if you're available, go ahead and hit your 6-word update here. Now that you had a chance to sleep on it, where are you at today? What are you doing? What are you thinking about? Get it down to 6 clean, concise words. We do this in the CCA, and then we do a case in point where I share some stuff that's going on with my clients. I share some stuff going on in my life. Then you would share some stuff going on in your life, and we would workshop together, and we would tie it all in to yesterday's lesson, right? The reason being, we opened loops yesterday, and then I told you not to close them. You sleep on them. Those loops stay open, and what happens is you're going to start interacting with your friends, your family, your clients, your partners. You're going to recognize these things, right? So the 6-word update is make it short, clear, and concise. And I can't mandate anything. This is like a free Nicsmas thing. But I would recommend that you journal about how everything you thought about yesterday has shown up in your life. Real world examples. How has this stuff showed up in my life? Ooh, that's so juvenile. Yeah, try it. See, what exactly do I want explicitly? That was the question. That was a 6-word update from Ben Frank. So now we're looking at Ben owns a hockey league. Now we can look at parents maybe that are trying to sign their kid up, and you're thinking like, wait, what do you actually want? Like, what are you trying to accomplish by signing up for this hockey league, right? That would be a case in point. You start recognizing these things in the real world, because if you can't recognize it in the real world, what the fuck is the point? What is the point of going up, demonstrating on stage your understanding of the Good Samaritan parable, right? Love thy neighbor, and then going to the restaurant and treating your waitress like shit? Because you go on stage and you say something valid that proves that you're smart, but you fail to behave that way in the real world. Journaled last night, and faucet opened up for like 10 pages of mess. Yep, starting to clarify. Yeah. Journaling is a thing that people will avoid. I wrote a daily thought bomb, for those of you who don't know. I wrote a daily email for 2 years straight. 80 pages a month on average in Google Docs. I just wrote about everything I saw. I would talk like this. I would read these comments, and I would write about it. And it was 80 pages a month on average. The size 12 font on a Google Doc. So sometimes people say, like, how do you know this stuff so well? Or somebody will ask me a question, and immediately I know which filter or which framework to use. It's because I learn it, I think about it, I don't close the loop, I write about it, and then I have a bunch of conversations doing like an ongoing case in point. Most of my life is trying, it's like a giant experiment trying to understand things better. And then I turn around, I share with you the best I can. So I hope that's helpful. We understand more than we realize. Yep, I'm finally clear on what's next. Great. Now drop your case in points here. This is where I'm not going to go back to these YouTube comments because I'm taking these videos down. When it comes time to see who's doing what, I'm going to be looking on Twitter. That's just my easy way of organizing things. I am playing my game just as you should play your game. Okay, quote of the day. Heroes are heroes because they acted heroic in behavior, not because they won or lost. Heroes are heroes because they acted heroic in behavior, not because they won or lost. Nassim Nicholas Taleb. This is an argument to worry more about your behavior than the outcome. Act heroic. Okay, because we need to put time and randomness on our side. We spoke about this. You may lose the battle, but you will win the war if you have time and randomness on your side, if your behavior is congruent with that of somebody that will get the things that you want to get. I almost chose a different quote, which was a little bit more aligned with the timeline thing, but I'll probably use that a different day. Okay. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to break everybody's brains, I hope. I'm going to open a bunch of loops. I might lose a lot of people because you're not going to like it. It's going to be so this is going to be contradictory to most things you believe in here, and that's okay. You are an adult. You can decide, this is so different than what I believe, I don't want to accept it. And then what I would recommend is you go back and you say, man, has my life turned out exactly the way I had hoped up to this point? If yes, then keep on keeping on. I am not in the business of changing people. I'm not in the business of convincing people they need to change. However, if for some reason it just doesn't seem like you can catch all the lucky breaks that some other people seem to catch, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, these eccentric billionaires that just seem to get lucky, then I recommend you at least consider what I'm about to say. That's all. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. And we can all agree that you can tell me I'm full of shit, but then journal about it and reflect on the outcomes that you've had over time. Remember, you can say, man, well, everything I do works. But look up, look around you, and if your world is a little bit in chaos, you're a little bit uncertain, and you're not quite where you want to be, then you might have to reconsider whether or not what you think actually worked. We talked about it yesterday with the dynamic complexities. I don't need to dive into it today. We have plenty of time ahead of us. So I'm going to throw this all at you, and then the next 10 days I will close all the loops that I opened today, and we will do it together. There'll be a little more interaction, if that's cool with you guys. Counterintuitive point number 1. The quality of a decision should not be judged by the outcome of that decision. But I thought we were supposed to be outcome oriented. Well, I made this decision and I made $1 billion. Therefore, it was a good decision. I've written articles and done trainings on this as well, so I'm not going to go super deep into it. Many of you have seen this. It's actually in Nicsmas 2020. But extreme example, if I said, hey, let me pick a name here. Hey, Steven, you pay me $10. You play this game. You have an 83.3% chance of winning this game. If you win, I give you $1 million. So you go, okay, $10 to play, $1 million upside, the asymmetry is to the upside, 83.3% chance of winning. My odds are also on my side. And you play the game. You give me $10, you play the game, and you win, and I give you $1 million. That seems like a pretty good decision, doesn't it? What if that game was Russian roulette? Is that really a good decision? Right? So all the way back to this, it's not whether you won or lost. It's whether your behavior is aligned with your mission. It's whether the reason, logic, and evidence that went into that decision makes sense given what we know today. The risk is, if we make a good decision with good logic, excellent reasoning, and a lot of evidence, and by chance COVID hits and we have a poor outcome, somebody else makes a horrible decision, right? But because COVID hits, they had a positive outcome. We risk thinking that that person is smarter than us, even though they have a poor decision-making criteria. Does that make sense? And then we doubt ourselves and we follow idiots. This is very common. It's called internet marketing. It's called all internet marketers that teach other people how to do internet marketing. Not all. There's some very, very great ones. Jay Abraham's a good friend of mine. Obviously, there's exceptions. But generally speaking, we make a good decision and we have a good outcome. We don't think about that. That's obvious. We make a bad decision, we have a poor outcome. We don't think about that. That's obvious. But sometimes we make the best decision possible. We use logic, reasoning, and evidence that all stands up, and we have a poor outcome because of chance, because of luck, because of some wrong place, wrong time, right? Give you an example. Let's say there's 2 restaurant owners. One has been very successful, has a track record of making great decisions, is going to open his 3rd restaurant. That's what he decides to do. I got a bunch of extra money with my 3rd restaurant. Given what we know today, that is the best decision they could make. It's safe, it's known, it's reliable, all that stuff. Another restaurant owner doesn't have a great track record, but, due to being in the right place, right time, also has a bunch of extra money and says, you know what? I'm going all in on Dogecoin. I'm not opening another restaurant. I'm putting all my cash into Dogecoin. And then COVID hits. Nobody could have expected it. There's no evidence. There's no reasoning. There was nothing to suggest that this would happen when it happened. Okay? The restaurant owner, number 1, that made the good decision loses his ass. Number 2, who made a really goofy decision in putting his life savings into Dogecoin, just so happened to catch a huge Dogecoin pump, cash out, now a millionaire, multimillionaire, whatever. The risk is the first restaurant owner that has a history of making good decisions, acting heroic in behavior, starts to doubt themselves. Other people start to doubt them. And we get a lot of people following, a lot of very smart people doubting themselves, Dunning-Kruger effect, and following idiots. It's very, very dangerous. Okay? I've done a whole training on it, so I'm not going to go any deeper on that, but we got to be very, very careful. We don't say, oh, well, I thought this would work and I lost. Oh, I'm stupid. That was a bad decision. That is not true necessarily. We say, why did I make this decision? What was the reasoning? What was the logic? Where's the evidence? Actually, now that I look at it, given what I know, this is the best decision I could have made. There's just new information now to update my operating system. So we can't just look at people that have won. Crypto is a big one. Internet marketing is a big one. And blindly think that they're better decision makers because they had a better outcome over this short amount of time. The reality is the great decision makers over time will greatly outpace the people that get lucky. As long as they don't change, as long as they don't fall victim to this. Okay? The window in the mirror. The window in the mirror. I've talked about that at length. We got to be very, very, very careful that we think the problem's out there. We think we're looking out the window, and when we're angry, we got to make sure we're not looking into a mirror. Okay? What happens is it's like standing in a room. So you imagine you're standing in a room and it's daytime and you're looking out the window and you got the fire behind you. Right, fireplace behind you and it's on. You're staring at you're staring out the window, right? But as it gets darker, as the sun goes down, it starts to you can kind of see the reflection behind you and you can see out the window a little bit, right? And then when it's pitch black, it looks like the stuff that's behind you, the fire, is out the window. Okay, this is kind of how our brains work. We get very, very confused. We think we're looking out a window and we're looking internal at our own thoughts. We have to just understand. We have to take a step and say, hey, is this out there or is this in here? I've done a lot of stuff about that. We don't need to go deep into that. I will, over the next couple of days, give you examples and help you recognize how to, Nth Degree CPA says 6-word update solves so many problems. Yeah. Like I said in the opening, that's something we do in CCA. Along with the case in point is a little more powerful. We just don't have time to do it. Nicsmas. So the more detailed the plan, and this is another one, contradictory. It's gonna a handful of you are gonna hate this. The more detailed the plan and the more focused the person, the lower probability of a positive or favorable outcome. It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? The more detailed the plan, the more focused the person, the lower probability of a positive outcome. The reason being, and I'll tackle this over the next couple of days as well. We talked about it yesterday. The more things that have to go right, the more fragile the plan. The more focused a person is on a step-by-step detailed plan that requires everything to go right, the less likely they are to be receptive to new information or a more efficient path forward. Right? So we talked about yesterday, we talked a little bit about certainty, and I'll share it with you in a second. The goal here, I'm going to show you how to do this, or I'm going to give you some ways that you can think about doing this, is what we want, what I want anyway, and what I try to inspire and help people with is nearly complete certainty that we're going to close the gap, right? It's a whole certainty methodology. So people say, why do you say uncertainty is good if you sell the certainty methodology? Well, because if we zoom out, we need to know I have probably an unreasonable amount of certainty that I'm going to figure it out. 100% certainty I'm going to get to where I'm going. What we want is uncertainty about exactly how that will look. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're the best auto mechanic on the planet, or Dr. House. Any of you guys watch Dr. House? You call Dr. House, or the best mechanic on the planet, or whatever, and you say, hey, I'm sick. Can you figure it out? What's wrong with me? Or you call your mechanic. Hey, my car, I know you specialize. You're the best in the world at this particular kind of car, and it's acting weird. What's wrong with it? It's very likely they're going to say, I don't know exactly what's wrong with it or exactly how I'm going to fix it. But come in because I know I can figure it out. Does that make sense? Let me know in the comments. That's what we're aiming for. I'm here and I want to be here. And I have the toolbox and the diagnostic level of discernment to have 100% certainty that I'm going to get there in this amount of time. Because I'm going to identify every opportunity to remove risk. I'm going to be receptive to every opportunity to collapse time. And I have a team of people and a toolbox that'll get me there. Like, cool. So what are you doing next month? I don't know. It depends on what the landscape looks like. Because I have this amazing toolbox and this diagnostic level of being able to discern the most efficient path forward, it would be silly for me to pretend like I know what that looks like. That's the kind of unshakable confidence that we need to have. Okay? So uncertainty about exactly how it's going to look, in my opinion, is a superpower. It's an incredible strength to develop. Because if you say, well, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to do this. Boom, 100% certain. And one thing goes wrong. COVID hits, your kid gets sick, any number of possible things goes wrong. You've built a plan that requires perfection, which we know will never, ever happen. We talked about it yesterday. Unexpected is undefeated, right? So the certainty concept is I have the toolbox to figure it out. I know I'm here. I know I can be here. Right now, I'm not even sure about the path. I got a pretty good idea, but things will change. I have no doubt that when things come in, like Dr. House, I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what's wrong with you. If it was that easy to figure out, you wouldn't have come to me. Certainty that we're going to get what we want in a timeline that is appropriate. And being open to a level of uncertainty that the path step by step over the years is not clear. It should not be clear. You are delusional if you think it's clear. Right? Things change so rapidly. Like, it's amazing. So the more detailed the plan and the more focused the person is on those details, the lower probability that they have the outcome that they are expecting. Let me know if that makes sense. So what we do is we learn how to navigate a terrain. That's how directions for acting like an adult or don't act like an asshole. You act like an asshole when you thought the whole world was going to bend to your will and act exactly as you expected to act. Right? So embrace short-term uncertainty because you have developed such a strong skill set to discern the best move given the reality of the situation. And that gives you the certainty that you will have the highest probability of getting what you want. The more certainty you need right now about tomorrow and the next day, the lower the probability you're going to have that you get to where you want in a long-term time frame, right? So I always talk about time preference. I'm always saying your time preference doesn't fit with me. Like, people want to hire me or my help, and they're trying to figure out exactly what tomorrow is going to look like. And like, that's not the time preference I work on. unless the thing that you want most in life, the most important thing to you, your family, all that stuff, unless it can be achieved tomorrow, then I'm just not that worried about exactly what happens tomorrow. Cool. So we're going to help you build, over the next couple of days, I'm going to introduce some tool belts and some tools and all that stuff. Can has luck. So we're talking about, what this is engineering luck. That's all it is. People in every industry, I know some of you know this, and I think if Dan's still here, he's probably been accused of it. He's heard me be accused of it. People just say, hey, you keep getting lucky. Like you did this thing and that only worked because of this reason, and then you did the next thing in the different industry and that only worked because of this reason. And everybody always has an excuse as to how, well, this was luck. When I was 21, I was working in a warehouse, wood veneer, high-end architectural panels. And somebody's worked there for 30 years, great dude, his name was Marquez. We're walking around, me, him, and Brandon, a friend of his who just got a job there. And he goes, I swear, if we all tripped and fell in a pile of shit, Nick would somehow find gold in his. And that's a recurring theme, and just recognizing it. It's not saying anything other than this is just anecdotal evidence, right? But this kind of stuff is engineered, right? Dan Nicholson, who's Nth Degree CPA's on here, who teaches the CCA, it's mostly his intellectual property. This is exactly what we're always talking. We have a whole entire curriculum showing how to engineer luck. It's far more detailed step by step than what I'm doing here, because this is free and I'm cramming a lot in. But it's engineering luck. You engineer luck by increasing optionality, by keeping your asymmetry to the upside, by being able to capitalize on the unexpected, being prepared for the unexpected, even benefiting from the unexpected. You can build all of that. So industry after industry after industry, I got tired of it, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go into crypto, where everything I had completely unknown. I had no fair advantages. I had a huge disadvantage in crypto because I don't know how to develop anything. It took me 4 tries to write a smart contract, and even when I finished that smart contract, it was shit. The whole market is down. I'm not going to talk a lot about crypto in this. The whole market is down. That's the first one. That's the second one. We have the only 2 tokens that are not tanking with the market. Must be lucky again. Developers, network owners, everybody. Oh, no, that only works because of this thing that got lucky. So just understand that at some point, if you watch somebody get lucky over and over and over, or you want to get lucky over and over and over, it's engineered. Okay? That's what we're trying to give you, is the ability to engineer luck, and a lot of that is that there's a lot of introspection in there. We'll talk about that. Okay, so engineering luck and closing the gap. Okay, here is the important thing. I'm going to tie it back over and over and over. What really matters to you? The only way to engineer quote unquote good luck is to close the gap. We're not just looking for random ass things that are really cool that we can call luck. We are looking for ways to get closer to the things that matter to you. That when we call it luck, it's unexpected. Randomness has closed the gap faster for us. Okay, we're going to engineer that. It's not about engineering a lottery ticket, which we'll talk about in a minute. It's really about engineering, where am I at? Where do I want to be? What really matters to me? And how do I set it up so that randomness and time, the unexpected, turns out to be, ooh, that's good luck relative to what I actually want. Not just good luck. Ooh, won $1 million. We are talking specifically about this stroke of luck closed the gap. That's what we need to engineer so that we have some direction. So to be extraordinary, lucky people. And I use the word extraordinary because it's a whole 4 or 5 week section in the CCA program. We cannot carry an ordinary toolbox. Again, I've talked to a bunch of crypto, bunch of devs, bunch of people saying, hey, can you help? I'm like, yeah, I'll talk to you. And their first default is, I don't understand. I checked all the boxes. I did everything that everybody said I'm supposed to do. Well, maybe that's your fucking problem, right? You can't carry around an ordinary toolbox. You can't get your 10-step checklist to grow a 6-figure business, right? Check, 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 check. Why am I not extraordinary? We do that. That's a window. You're gonna look out the window think you're looking out the window and be like, what's going on? It must be Facebook. It must be the Facebook algorithm. Oh, I must only be talking to poor people. Targeting people is so hard. Well, everybody else is selling their crypto, so I'm not making any money. You're looking out the window. You're mad at all these things. That's a mirror, homie. You took an ordinary toolbox to put together an ordinary thing and then expected something other than ordinary. Think about that. You're mad at everything out the window. You're mad at yourself. You just don't want to have that conversation. You wanted to buy it. Talked about it yesterday. You got duped into a promise and you wanted to buy it. And you won't let anybody open any loops because it's really uncomfortable. So it must be something out there. Because if I look in the mirror, if I accept that this window is a mirror, I gotta open more loops and deal with uncertainty. Which hopefully at some point in the next 10 or 12 days, you're a little bit more receptive to that uncertainty. You cannot buy or follow a standard checklist and expect anything other than standard at best. Okay, we're going to talk about this toolbox, and the new tool. Extraordinary is really a concept that pulled from Randy Massengale after the CCA, and the concept of a toolbox. I spent a lot of time with Dan Nicholson, and it's the way that he frames the kind of the issue processors and the frameworks and stuff. Okay, I'm just amalgamating all of that together. I'm going to zoom over these things, okay, because I don't want to go on forever today, and we will have time. I actively encourage people to cultivate a bad memory. I actively encourage you to forget things. Here's why. The world is changing, and we should be updating our tools, okay? So there's a great risk in remembering how reasoning to a conclusion when you're 19 years old, deciding, I want to be a doctor. Yeah, that's what I want. Yep. Going through medical school, halfway through medical school, I don't know how old you are, 25. But let's say you're now 25, and you go, what did I want to be? Oh, yeah, I wanted to be a doctor. I remember. It's very likely that you have experienced things that it would make a whole lot of sense with your new updated operating system to reason through and maybe come to a different conclusion with an updated operating system. A lot of us think like, oh, I have a good memory, so I know how to do this. I remember how to build this furniture. Yep. It may behoove us to say, well, now that I have knowledge of new tools and new methods and new thought processes, maybe I should reason to the best way to build this piece of furniture from the ground up. Right? So having a good memory is only, I mean, there's definitely utility, but if you are updating your operating system, if you are consistently learning new things, new ways to think, new ways to process issues, then it is very likely that you would reason from the ground up to a new, better, more efficient conclusion than the one that you remember from before. I'm not going to go too deep into that. I have stuff about that, but just think about every time you like, I remember how to do this. Maybe stop and I remember how to handle this, Oh, my husband's upset. I remember how to handle this. I know the best way to handle this. Maybe after 10 years of learning about yourself and doing a lot of self-work and stuff, maybe we should reason about a new way to handle this, because we are not the same person we were when we came to this conclusion the first time. If we are the same person, well then, okay, you're not growing. That's kind of your job as a human, is to grow, but you don't want to. That's fine. So this caveat, this is only for people that have improved themselves and their ability to think and reason. Okay, so we want to cultivate a poor memory. Very counterintuitive, because it goes back to validity versus usefulness, right? CCA concept. But how can I prove how smart I am and make a bunch of valid points if I haven't remembered a bunch of stuff? Yeah, sure. Not going to be super useful, given that the world today is different than it was And your preferences and your priorities might be different, and your situation might be different than it was back when you came to this conclusion that you have now memorized. This is very, very common. A lot of people remember things they could get from when they were 17 years old, and if they stopped and reasoned and had to re-engineer or resolve the problem again from the ground up, they would come to a much more useful, in today's world, they'd come up to a much more useful conclusion. So, counterintuitive. Everybody wants to do like all kinds of memory training. It's fine. It's my preference is if you want to engineer luck, right? You want to be lucky for the next 10 years. Don't remember things when the conclusion was come to with an operating system that is out of date. That does not sound like something that would put luck on my side. Outdated operating system. Hey, must never seek consensus. This is another one that both Randy and Dan hit pretty hard in the CCA. Must never seek consensus. Goes back to ordinary, extraordinary. You just can't wait for other people to give you a thumbs up. It goes back to the checklist. It goes back to being extraordinary. Zero. I launched in crypto, for example, but every company. If I told anybody what I was going to do, I probably would have got discouraged before I started. That doesn't make any sense. You can't build a small cap crypto without a bunch of marketing. It's not possible. You need influencers. You need shillers. What you're trying to do, it just can't be done. Like, there's no evidence that can be done. Okay. Had I sought consensus, the crypto world would not exist, nor would my first company, or my second, my third might. Mastery mode certainly wouldn't look like it does. Okay? So we must never wait for consensus. Counterintuitive. Here's a thing that people do all the time is like, hey, so I have this idea. Brain dump. Do you think that's a good idea? Who cares what I think? Why are you seeking consensus? Serious question. Like, why are you waiting for somebody else to tell you your idea is a good idea? If it's revolutionary, if it's innovative, nobody's going to understand it anyway. Nobody's going to tell you it's a good idea. Right? So we must not seek consensus, especially if we're going to do it anyway. If it is something you are going to do anyway. Think about this. I'm going to do this anyway. Hey, Nick, do you think I should do this? I could say yes and validate you, or I could say no and give you doubt. But you're going to do it anyway. So you're either going to do it with validation or you're going to do it with doubt. Why would you expose yourself? If you're going to do it anyway, why would you expose yourself to the possibility of doing it with doubt? Does that make sense? If you look in the mirror and you say, I'm going to do this anyway, I'm hell-bent on it, why would you seek consensus? There is only downside. People say yes, and there's no upside because you are going to do it anyway. People say no, and there is only a heavy, significantly heavy downside in the emotional toll of now doubting yourself while you're doing something. Right? These are the things that we need to think about as adults. Directions for acting like an adult. Don't act like an asshole. Acting like an asshole is putting yourself in a position where you're going to do something anyway, and then you ask people if you should. Anything that happens after that, like, look in the mirror. That's on you. There's no reason to seek consensus for something you're going to do anyway. Now, if you're legitimately trying to discern whether or not you should do something, you should have one or two people that trust, that you trust, that know you, that, blah, 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 blah. But you can't go seek validation from 100 people. If 100 people understood what you were doing and could support you, then it probably wouldn't be a very good idea. It would already exist somewhere, right? So those are the things we need to think about. Never seek consensus. Anybody know who this is? I'll see if anybody can figure it out in the comments. No? All right. This is Evelyn Adams. Great way to come at that. No upside. Yeah, we do things so frequently that only have downside. It's amazing. Like, if you got an injury and you decided yourself or a professional opinion, I'm not going to get surgery. I'm just not getting surgery. I know that for a fact. And somebody goes, you should go get an MRI. Why would you go get an MRI? It can only tell you that you're broken and need surgery or you don't. But if you've already made a decision, why would you do that? We expose ourselves to so much emotional downside with no upside, which is the exact opposite of rigging the game in your favor. We are exposing ourselves to bad luck over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Like, stop. How about that? That's why it's don't act like an asshole. This is Nicsmas 2021. Stop exposing yourself to downside that has no upside. Just do that, and luck is all of a sudden in your favor, right? So this is Evelyn Adams. She won the New Jersey lottery twice in her lifetime. The odds of that are 1 in 15 trillion, about. Depends on who you ask. A bunch of people have done research on it. Harvard, Stanford, whatever. 1 in 15 trillion. How lucky, right? Now, that was the consensus. People were trying to figure out what are the odds that one woman in this, in 60 years of her life wins the New Jersey lottery twice. What are the odds? 1 in 15 trillion. What a lucky person. One of the more perspicacious individuals in the field said, wait a minute. 1 in 15 trillion, sure. But let's run some other scenarios. And they found that the odds that somebody, somewhere, gets this lucky in their lifetime is 1 in 30. Those are like pretty decent odds, right? Like 1 in 30, it's a lot more palatable than 1 in 15 trillion. The probability went down. I'm going to try to explain this. Like these are things I can see in my head that I don't always know how to articulate. The probability becomes astronomically low when the exact details are retrofitted to the situation. So 1 in 30 chance that somebody somewhere gets that lucky, right? Then once it happens, it's a 1 in 15 trillion chance that it's a woman in New Jersey, 60 years old, that wins it twice, yada, yada, yada. So again, you see how the more details the more things that need to go right in order to get that lucky, the lower the probability. Does that make sense? For example, you ever been on vacation somewhere and you see somebody from like high school and it's like some really strange, like Bangkok, or you're just like some weird place. And you're like, what are the odds that I see you here? Small world, right? Very low odds that I would see John Smith in Bangkok, Thailand, on my birthday. Weird. But it's not actually that low of a probability that you see someone that you don't expect to see somewhere on a day that has some significance. It's only when we see John Smith and it's here that the odds become astronomical. Right? 1 in 30 seems hard to believe. Well, it's like somebody gets that lucky. She won it was a total of like $6 million. Like the odds that something happens to somebody where they stumble upon about $6 million is not that unlikely. It happens all the time, right? Inheritance, so you see what I mean when the more granular we are about how it has to happen. If Evelyn Adams woke up and said, yeah, I think I'm going to win the lottery. I'm going to make it a goal to win the lottery twice in my lifetime, New Jersey lottery specifically. Very, very, very low odds of that happening. But the odds of something happening unexpected with a ton of upside is not that unusual, right? So hopefully this makes sense. It's when we retroactively fit the details that the probability becomes astronomical. You can invert that whole thing and see, oh, so I want to make, these are my goals. And the more specific you are about exactly how that has to happen, you are driving the probability of it happening down. You will miss all the other opportunities to be as lucky because you have prematurely defined, you have decided what it needs to be way too far in advance. Does that make sense? Here's how you do not engineer luck. You define exactly what has to happen. The only way, here's how I'm going to make $10 million. Boom, 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 and following that blindly. You have taken your probabilities from something like 1 in 30 to 1 in 15 trillion. Just by too much specificity and too much focus on defining exactly how it has to happen too far in advance. Right? So does this make sense? This is meaning, or what I mean, or what I'm trying to get across here. And again, you have to be able to process things on a few different levels here. Uncertainty about how it's going to happen increases the probability that it happens. That's where the certainty comes from. Right? Again, this is not new. This is like all of this research. Evelyn Adams won a bunch of times, and all these studies came out, and people just failed to connect the dots and tie it into what they're trying to accomplish. Okay, they're like, oh, I wish I was that lucky. Like, well, build a new toolbox. Okay, so the way that we engineer luck now is we increase optionality. We are more receptive to all the possible ways that things could come together to get us what we want. The more granular it is, the lower the probability. The more expansive, the more receptive you are willing to be, the more space that you make, the higher the probability if you are willing to be receptive enough to recognize it. You can't be receptive when you're stressed, when you're in anxiety, or when you're too focused and myopic. Okay? So receptivity is a big thing. You could probably talk to any of my partners or people that are close to me. I'm like, yeah, it's going to happen. Like, how? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just going to take a nap until it shows up. And like on one hand, they're probably like, this lazy fuck. On the other hand, it's very rare that we don't figure it out. It just pops up like, oh shit. Huh. Remember that thing that we were trying to accomplish? There it is. Okay. So where's the line of detail when it comes to goal planning setting? The things that matter. The things that matter. You'd be surprised how many things I'm like, yeah, well, this, and this all have to go right. Say, well, if it really came down to it on your deathbed, what would you care about? Well, this and this. Well, then ditch these details, because these details are creating a lower probability that the two things that matter come to fruition. Right? Does that make sense? So it's about priorities. It's about being really honest about what you want. Right? But I need more details. Okay, every detail you add. So if you prioritize, right? Every detail you add, the more granular you get, the lower you are driving down the probability of the higher tier things. You might have 5 things that are very, very important to you, and that's fine. But I want to have this much money in my bank, and I want to have this much freedom and spend this much time with my family. My wife never work again and never have to worry about money. All right, well, and you could get super granular, but say, wait, if you never had to worry about money, your wife never had to work again, do you really need $10 million in the bank? Well, no, I guess I would need $10 million in the bank. Good, then get rid of that detail. Because every detail that is unnecessary is driving down the probability of the other things. Do you think when you are open to these possibilities and actually looking for them, you see and experience them more? Yeah, so manifestation. I'm actually probably more on the woo-woo side than people would think. But yes and no. If you know what you are oriented towards, if you really do top of mind say, man, I want to spend more time with my family, and I want to stop taking so many phone calls because they stress me out, and you don't fill it up, you don't fill your time with a bunch of shit to be busy or details, then your brain will find ways to spend more time with your family and take less calls, right? So that's why we started with what really matters to you. If you don't know what really matters to you, your brain will find faster ways to a whole bunch of stuff. Faster ways to more phone calls, faster ways to less phone calls. So it's really just understanding what really matters to me, plant that seed, and then just be receptive to possibilities. Hey, here's $1 billion deal. Do you want it? And your brain should say, well, does that get me closer to spending more time with my family? No, I'd actually spend less time with my family. No, take your $1 billion and shove it up. You know where to shove it. Imagine the stress and anxiety of saying no to a $100 million, $1 billion deal if you don't know what you really want. It's really easy if you know what you want. So the whole manifestation thing is a little woo-woo, and I don't think most people get it wrong. But it's really just about being super clear on where you're trying to go, right? And then being receptive to more efficient paths. There are people that just kind of seem to float through life and get everything they want. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, a lot of these eccentric billionaires, they actually just have a very clear orientation toward what they want, and they don't do shit to fill time. And then they go, ooh, that's a faster way to get what I want. Cool. Right? Oh, got lucky again. What are the chances that this happened to so-and-so? Well, they were much higher for him or her because they didn't decide too far in advance what it needed to be. Right? I hope that makes sense. I hope that's useful. So Evelyn Adams, you always think the level of detail, there are things that require detail. Absolutely. I mostly try to hire people to do that for me. Right? So it's not, you can't just neglect detail. But we're talking about 6-month plan. My 6-month plan is, what are the 1 or 2 things that need to go right? All right, well, I probably need to fill up the CCA program. That's very important to me. And probably need to get all these phone calls off my schedule. That's my 6-month plan. How are you going to do it? I don't know. Because I don't know how many people are going to show up to Nicsmas. Number of people that show up to Nicsmas determines maybe if I make an offer to people at Nicsmas, that's just the reality of it. Cool. All right. So we'll go system reliability, good computations, bad mathematics. I'll make it quick. Okay. This is the meat. This is actually the meat of today, because I want you to understand this is super aligned with if you can make this leap. I don't know if I'll be able to make it for you. Increasing optionality, decreasing risk, and getting what you want. System reliability. System reliability is a concept from ecology. Okay. Most of the stuff I pulled, my understanding of system reliability was started, I think it was 1970, it was written, and there's multiple versions, iterations since. So again, I'm just saying this isn't new. Anybody that is willing to pick up a book and explore some things can find this. That's to say, I'm no guru, no expert, I'm just sharing a new concept. Okay, so less is truly more when it comes to engineering luck. Yes, absolutely. And here is my mathematical argument for less being more. Great segue. Here's my mathematical argument for less being more. System reliability. System reliability states that the reliability of a complex system is a product of the reliability of the components of the system. Okay? So let me show you. This is something that clients price average purchases. We'll call it, this is how many times they buy. Right? So people like Jay Abraham and others, they show this geometric growth. This is nonlinear geometric growth. Right? It's multiplicative, it's not additive. This is, so if you have 5 clients and they pay $5 and they buy 5 things, on average you make $125, right? It's multiplicative, meaning you change one and it actually makes a pretty big impact on the total, which is right over here. Okay. And if you can add another like a upsell, right? Because it's multiplicative, this number goes up significantly. Little tiny changes make a huge impact on the total. This is good computation, poor mathematics. Let me explain what I mean. So in this example, right, upsell 2, the more stuff you add, the bigger this number gets, the better. Because that's how math works. Okay? But when we're talking about system reliability, this is the reliability in which you get the outcome you expect, which is very, very important that we get what we expect as often as possible. Okay, I'm going to make some notes here. System reliability. Okay, can we agree that nothing is perfect? Let me know in the chat, because if we can't agree on that, this won't make any sense. So what our brain does here, I'll give you a minute to answer that question. What our brain does here is it says, okay, bigger numbers and more stuff. So even though I got a 6 and a 6 and a 6, I add a 2, look how much that increases the total, because it's multiplicative. So our brain naturally clings on to this geometric growth concept, but it's faulty. And I need somebody in the chat to tell me if we can agree that nothing is perfect. Nothing is 100% perfect. All right, I'll wait till somebody tells me. But here's the deal. Our brain naturally goes, well, I'm not getting what I want. So if I add this, thing 3, right? And even if it's not very good, oh, cool, I'm getting closer. Bigger is better. Hey. Well, nothing is perfect. These computations were accurate, but it was poor mathematics, because if nothing is perfect, we're working in fractions. Make sense? Nothing's perfect. It could be 99.999999% perfect. It's still a decimal. What happens when we multiply decimals? Because we already agreed it's multiplicative. Everything you add, this number goes down. More components decreases reliability. What our brain doesn't fully understand is that we're working in fractions. Okay? So, 90% of the time, we show up to the office on time. 90% of the time, we push the button on our computer. 90% of the time, it's plugged into the wall. 99% of the time, or 90% of the time, we've actually paid our electricity bill. Okay? That means 65% of the time, our computer is going to turn on at the time it's supposed to turn on. Right? Now, most of these things are technology is very, very close to perfect. So we almost always it's so close to perfect that we get really upset when things don't work. But do you see, every component we add, the reliability is exactly what we expect to happen, goes down. See? Does this make sense? So component 1, component 2, component 3, component 4. Every component we add makes the system less reliable. Even if, look at this. So 60% of the time, we have some really shitty components here. 60% of the time, somebody shows up on time. 60% of the time, whatever, right? And we go, but it's multiplicative. I'm going to add this new really great thing. So 36% of the time, we get the exact outcome we expect. Let me add this amazing technology. It's nearly perfect. Even if you add a component that is more reliable than all the other components, the total reliability goes down. Does this make sense? So although the computations on the multiplicative numbers as whole numbers were correct, it was poor mathematics in not recognizing that we're working in fractions and these should be decimals. Right? So again, 0.8. Why is that not working? Let me push some buttons here. There we go. Product of components. There we go. So 80% of the time, we get what we want. 80% of the time, we flip the light switch, and 80% of the time, there's actually a light bulb in there, and 80% of the time, we pay the electric bill. 50% of the time, the light is going to turn on when we expect it to turn on, right? But even if you have great components, you just keep adding. We just keep thinking more is better, more is better. And we wonder, why can't we get any control over our life? We keep adding all these amazing things. Because the more things that you add, the less control you have. Because the reliability, the probability that you get what you expect to get goes down with everything that you add. Does this make sense? This is why older, well-made cars are more reliable. Yes. Yes, because more parts can mean better performance, but less reliable. And if you want to engineer luck, you need reliability. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. So this is a mathematical argument to say 0.9, 0.9. Say this is person 1, this is person 2. Both are trying to engineer luck. Both have a 73% chance, 73% probability that things happen the way they expect them to happen. It's actually way more complex than this. It's driven way down. Like, we have a very low probability of everything happening exactly the way we want. But for example purposes, this person says, I'm going to add some shit because I'm susceptible to marketing and I think I need more stuff. This one goes, you know what? I just listened to Nicsmas. I don't need this. I really don't. Who has the advantage? I would argue person 2 has an advantage because they will have less fires and less of the unexpected. Right? Now, let's apply this to your plan. Your super detailed plan, right? This is my 10-year plan. This is how everything needs to go right. Same idea, right? The more detailed and focused this needs to be, the more things that need to go right, knowing that nothing is ever 100% perfect. Look at this. Even though this person has two components at 90%, they're sitting with an 81% probability. This person has a whole bunch, and one of them is all these components that are better than this person's 2 components. Look who has the higher reliability. Who's going to win over time? Okay. So hopefully conceptually this helps you kind of, conceptually I've been making this argument. This is a mathematical argument. This is system reliability. You can go down the depths of ecology. This is exactly what ecologists deal with, is the moving pieces within an ecosystem. Right? And how do we, an ecologist's job is to say, hey, look, if we pull this lever and we expect this outcome, like we're going to build this dam so that there's no more mosquitoes, way over there because we're getting rid of the water, but then like the whole ecosystem dies. Like this is what ecologists are dealing with. So I strongly recommend you go down that rabbit hole. Just tuning in for the first time, intrigued but not sure what's going on. Go back to day 1. Definitely go back to day 1. It's going to be gone soon. So this is system reliability, right? You keep adding shit. You're wondering, why don't I get the outcome I want? I keep adding better stuff, right? Like, here's the last argument for system reliability here. Well, my eating habits are shit, but my exercise is, I exercise pretty hard. 38%, the reliability that I actually get the body that I want in the time that I want is about 38%. But I could get these really, really good supplements, and they're going to help me sleep really good and all this stuff. Cool, 38%. Barely move the needle. You add something that is nearly perfect, it'll barely move the needle, because this is how multiplication works. Okay? Or, alternatively, right? Alternatively, we bring this 0.6 to a 0.8. Why don't we just eat a little bit better? Much larger impact on the system. So improving the lowest hanging fruit will improve the reliability. Adding new things, no matter how great, will decrease it, which means, in my opinion, when you're looking at your plan, when you're looking at your life, when you're looking at all these complex systems, the logical thing to do is remove all the things that are not necessary. Just remove them. Watch. Reliability goes up. Hey. Reliability goes up. Hey. And then when everything is removed that is not necessary, you don't overcome this low reliability by adding more shit. You improve the lowest denominator here. Because if we can get this, but look how big of an impact it's going to have. Right? So you want to engineer luck and act like a freaking adult. You know who wants more things? Children. Children want more things. They want all the things. They don't want to share. Everything's theirs, right? You know what adults want? Hopefully to get something that matters to them. Prioritize. That's what adults do that children can't, is they are supposed to be able to prioritize. You remove all the things that are not necessary, and then you don't try to cover up this thing that is necessary but unreliable. You do the fucking work to fix the thing. So people say, should I read? Should I explore? Should I explore new things? And yada, yada, yada. Like, yes and no. Relative to this, yes. So if you have to attack this component of your life or your system, and you don't want to, go down a rabbit hole. Explore new ways to solve this problem. One of the questions I get probably most often is like, how do you have your hands to so many things? Like ecology, just shared this with you. Computer science. Not just going around learning shit for the sake of learning shit. I don't have that. That's not in my brain. It's, system reliability. I need to improve this. What are the creative and unique ways that I can improve this part? And that sends you down rabbit holes. So what most people are doing is they're avoiding this. Okay? That's not how you engineer luck. Because if you avoid this and you add a bunch of other stuff, all you're doing is driving down the reliability. Right? Reliability is, we go back to Evelyn Adams, right? We're trying to do the opposite. We are trying to increase optionality, right? The less components necessary and the less we define it, and the more reliable those components, the higher probability that we get as lucky as we need to get what we want, even if we're not entirely sure exactly how it works. Big part of being receptive is not filling all this space. So the mathematical argument is get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of as much as you can. Get rid of as much as you can so that you can allow receptivity. What if I'm the most unreliable component? You are. You are. Humans always are. Humans are always the least reliable component, which means technology is not the answer, behavior modification is. That's kind of the B message here, right? Like the people always go, I tried this diet and I tried this diet and I tried this exercise plan. I tried this marketing plan. And like, none of that is the problem. The problem is your behavior is the least reliable. So understand that that's the, humans are absolutely the least reliable, which is why it's always about behavior modification. It's not about adding more technology. It's not about adding more tools. It's not about any of that stuff, which is a whole nother conversation. But that's the thing that when you understand system reliability, and if you learn how to measure it, you will find that it is your behavior, right? Until you have said, okay, let's say you try this diet plan. You go, this diet doesn't work. Well, you followed it exactly to a T for a year, 32% of the time. So how can you gauge the efficacy of the diet plan? Your behavior is the problem. That's if you're in my crypto world, I'm going to ramble a little bit. If you're in my crypto world, even some of the business world, and you got all these spreadsheets and yada, like you keep adding tools thinking it's going to help you get closer, and it's not. Well, I need the data. Well, how else am I going to, like, it's your behavior that's the problem. You don't follow your own trading rules. What the fuck is another spreadsheet going to help with, right? Business is the same way. It's the same way. So, yeah, the point of the system reliability, the way I typically teach it, is to point out that it's, you know, your ads do this often, your sales this often, blah, 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 blah. Humans are always the least reliable. We have the lowest probability that we do exactly what we expect to do in any given situation. They say, oh, well, if I was in the situation, I would do this. And then in that situation, when emotions take over, you don't. That means that you are the least reliable component in the system, most likely. You cannot remove yourself, although you should as much as you can. So the real answer, which is what Nicsmas is really about, don't act like an asshole, or directions for acting like an adult, keyword act, is, or even if we go all the way back to slide 1, action. Heroes are heroes because they acted heroic. It is behavior that engineers luck, period. Window in the mirror. You're looking out the window, trying to find more ways to track my progress and more better exercise programs and more softwares that can do more granular math for me. You're looking out the window, and all you're doing is you're driving down reliability because you refuse to look in the mirror, which is the lowest, by far the lowest hanging fruit there. Okay, so we've got to be very careful because good computations can trick us into believing spreadsheets and shit like, oh, yeah, look at all this valid math I did. All these computations are accurate. Yeah, but that's not the math you should be doing. Right? Here's how I'm going to get what I want out of life. If this spreadsheet does not include your actual behavior, then the computations may be accurate. The mathematics is wrong because you behave your way into what you want. It's amazing how many people will use as many accurate computations as possible to avoid identifying the components of the system that need to be improved. All right. Hopefully that's helpful. I'll look at the comments in a minute. So I'm going to send you the decision-making quadrant. It's just a conversation about why we don't trust people that have a good outcome, especially if they had a good outcome one time. We have a bad outcome. They have a good outcome. It's very, very possible we made the better decision. And over time, our decision-making criteria, if it were the same over decades, we would end up in a much better spot. Right? We cannot discount that luck exists, good luck and bad luck. It's very possible that you get a stroke of bad luck, somebody else gets a stroke of good luck, and then you mistake them for being smarter than you. Or you get a stroke of good luck, they get a stroke of bad luck, and you mistake yourself for being smarter than them. Okay? Decisions, the quality of a decision is not based on the outcome. The quality of the decision should be determined by before the outcome is unknown, the reason, the logic, and the evidence that went into the decision. Very hard for people because we're so outcome focused that a lot of people do something really stupid and win, and then they make the mistake of thinking it was smart, and they try to do it again, and they lose tragically, sometimes in a way they can't recover from. And what can you simplify? What can you simplify? What can you remove? I promise none of you, as much as you want to lie to yourselves, none of you have written a step-by-step plan exactly what you're going to do the next day and been able to follow it for any significant amount of time, because shit happens. So if you don't want to accept it or you don't want to believe me, just look back on your own life. And what happens, the reliability component, is we lie to ourselves about how reliable we have been as humans. Yeah, what I do, I just make a list and I knock it out every day. And what you are doing when you say that is you are plugging in 1. I am 100%. When you say, I just line up in this and I knock it down every day, then you are doing poor mathematics and poor computations, because you are assuming that you are 100% reliable, and you are not, because you are a human. Okay, so if you look back and go, yeah, well, it works for me. I just plan my day and plan my week. I go to the gym at 5 a.m. and I do this, this, and this. Then you are saying to yourself and to others that you have never, ever once been 5 minutes late. You have never once not shown up. You've never once slept in, and that's a lie. So you're adding more components thinking that your behavior is pretty damn perfect, and it is not. So I would journal about that. I would simplify. I would remove everything until my behavior matched the plan. What is the point of adding things that your behavior cannot keep up with? That's what most people are doing. It's very prevalent in fitness and business. So simplify. Simplify everything until your behavior is damn near perfect relative to the plan. That doesn't mean block out 5 minutes of every day. It's exactly the opposite. It means figure out the 1 or 2 things that need to go right and do those things consistently. The rest of the time, be perceptive to what may be new information or a more efficient path forward. That's just a recommendation. Do whatever you want with it, okay? Hit the Twitter. This is in Telegram. You're already in Telegram if you somehow found your way here. I want to see 6-word updates. Okay, we had 50. We had 50 yesterday, maybe even more. Let me look. I want more 6-word updates. We should be good at this by now. I'll never find it that way. Oh, maybe I will. Let's see how many we had yesterday, and then let's do one better today. 95, not 50. Shows what I know. 95 6-word updates. Let's get clear. Let's get concise. Let's challenge ourselves. It's so much harder than you think. You think you're simple, right? I'm pretty simple. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Watch how much you struggle on some days to get your thoughts down to 6 words. That's the challenge that we face. Okay. Appreciate you all. This will be up. I'm going to pull down day 1 in just a minute. This will be up for another 24 hours, and then I will pull it down. Tomorrow might be a little bit different. It's Sunday, though, so I'll let you know tonight. Appreciate y'all.